Today we're going to learn how to order numbers on a number line, and we're going to be working with positives, negatives, rational, irrational, all those numbers. So we're actually just going to start by making a number line. So if you can remember, number lines go from negative numbers to positive numbers. And what we have to remember, this confuses kids a lot, is when numbers are negative, that what would normally be a bigger number is technically smaller. You have to think about it like money. If John was in debt $1 and his sister was in debt $3, technically John is richer. He has more money because he is less in debt. So we have to be really careful about that. We are going to make a number, or make a note when numbers are negative. What we would think the bigger numbers are, they are actually smaller. So when I'm putting numbers on a number line, I look for my biggest negative number and I put that first. And then I work my way down to 0. Once we get to 0, we switch our thinking modes and we go into positive numbers, so we would go from smallest to biggest. So the first example, we're going to order the following numbers: -3, -3.5, -2.1, and -2.2. So what I like to do is I like to write all my numbers like money. That makes it easier for me to think of. So I'm just going to change -3 into -3.00. Change 3.5 into 3.50. -$2.10. -$2.20. So just kind of remembering that if you have whatever your ending number is after your decimal, you can always throw in as many zeros as you want. It does not change the value of the number. So this is kind of nice because they already put into decimals for us. They won't always do that. We'll see that in the next example. But for now, we'll go ahead and graph these. So the biggest negative number would be $3.50. So I'm just going to put -3.5. I'm not writing 350 because 3.5 was the actual number before I changed it to make it a little bit easier to work with. So we want to stick to the original numbers. And I like to cross them off my list. The next biggest negative number is -3. We'll cross that off. And then it would be -2.2. And last, -2.1. So that one wasn't too terrible. In this example, when I look at these numbers, pi, √10, √16, 3.33, and 1/3, we're not sure exactly which one comes first on a number line because those we're not used to seeing those. We don't work with those in everyday life. So our first step when we have problems like this is we're going to turn all numbers into decimals and read like money. So on your calculator, you're going to hit, if you don't know what pi is, it's 3.14. There is a pi button that you could hit, pi and equals, and it'll tell you, but that's what it rounds to. To do the square root of 10 on our calculators, you'd have to hit the second x squared button and then type 10 and then hit equals. So give you a minute to figure what that is. So you should get 3.16 if you do it correctly. And I'm just going to write what these originally were so I don't forget. Because remember, we want the originals on our number line, not the decimal versions. And then square root of 16 would be 4. 3.3, now that's already a decimal. I actually should write 4.00. 3.3 is already a decimal, so I just need to tack on a 0 so that it looks like money. And then 3 1/3. So what you do on the calculator, there's actually 2 ways to do this. Probably the easier way is the fraction to decimal button. So on the calculator, if you type 3 and then ABC, so look for that little ABC button, 1, ABC, 3. If you type that in, that reads 3 and 1/3. That ABC button means, hey, I want this as a fraction. I'm typing it in as a fraction. I don't actually want to divide out the numbers. From that, you hit second, and then hit that PRB button. What you'll see is looks like F to B. That stands for fraction to decimal. So your calculator's asking, do you want to turn this fraction into a decimal? And we do, so we hit equals. And we should get 3.33 repeating. So we'll just round it off to 3.33. And that again was 3 1/3. So now that I see this as money, it's a lot easier to put in order. Since they're all positives, I don't need to worry about negatives. I'm going to start with the smallest positive number. So that would be $3.14. And that was really high. And cross it off. The next smallest number was $3.16, which was root 10. And then $3.30, which was 3.3. Then we would have 3 1/3. And the last number is root 16. So we're going to make a note here that when you graph numbers, use the original form. So that means, again, like instead of writing 3.16, it was really given as root 10. So I need to write root 10 on my graph. Okay, so there are 2 examples that you can try. I'm going to work through them. If you want to work through them at your own pace, that's fine. I will not be talking through these until we're done. Okay, so looking here, we converted all numbers into decimals and we read it like money. And they were all positive, so we can just go from smallest to biggest, like normal. In number 4, we have quite a few negatives. So again, after converting everything into decimals, you have to start with the biggest negative and work up to the smallest negative. And then when you cross into the positive side, it switches. You go from smallest to biggest. Why do we do that? Because that's how a number line works.